Hi, I'm Melissa with Grant Wolf Casting. In this week's video, we're going to be talking about digital vouchers. So I'm going to start by assuming there might be somebody watching who has no idea what I'm talking about. So when you do background work in film and television, you are required to fill out some paperwork, and that is usually called a voucher. It includes things like a time card, a federal I-9 form, etc. It's how you get paid. You are also always supposed to keep a copy of your voucher. Some people are even confused what that means, voucher, if they haven't worked in the industry. And some people confuse it with Taft-Hartley. So Taft-Hartley is when we request a SAG Taft-Hartley for somebody who is non-SAG to work as SAG for the day. While that would be marked on your voucher, that alone is not proof enough for the Taft-Hartley. The casting company also has to write out a form, a Taft-Hartley form, and submit that to SAG as well. You need the voucher for the day that you worked as SAG as your own personal kind of evidence or receipt that you worked as SAG, plus that Taft-Hartley form that was filed with SAG on your behalf. So it's still important to keep your voucher for that purpose as well. Now, pre-pandemic, most productions used paper vouchers. There was a couple that were using a digital voucher company called Wraps. Now, as the pandemic began and productions finally came back to work, more and more productions tried to use digital voucher systems. So instead of filling out a piece of paper, you would go online and fill out paperwork in a secure system that would have had to been approved both by the studio and SAG-AFTRA. I also want to make it clear that Grant Wolf Casting is neither a payroll company nor a digital voucher company. We don't have anything to do with the storage or delivery of this information to the payroll company. We don't have anything to do with processing payroll. So if you do have questions about missing payments, missing checks, you first want to reach out to the payroll company. Their contact information should be listed on the voucher somewhere. And if not, you can ask us and we'll give you the contact information that we have for that payroll company. But the payroll company and the digital voucher company are contracted directly by the production on which you're cast, and they are the ones handling payment. Some people still prefer paper vouchers. I'll let you know some issues that productions have had with paper vouchers in the past. First, there is issues with handwriting. People are writing with a pen in these paper vouchers. And when it's taken back to accounting, they are trying to decipher that person's handwriting. And sometimes there's typos and errors because they can't read the handwriting. Another issue is that you're having to process the paperwork, and then it used to be, then those vouchers had to be shipped like via an overnight service like UPS or FedEx or DHL, and shipped to the payroll company for final processing after they have gone through the accounting department. And I know of at least one instance where an entire shipment, an entire package of vouchers went missing, and all the actors involved had to fill out their paperwork again. This was years ago, but it has happened. So obviously when you're dealing with paper being misplaced, it's obvious, can be a nightmare. I haven't heard about that happening in years, but it's just something, another reason that a lot of accounting departments, a lot of productions prefer digital vouchers. Obviously, you're not having to worry about reading people's handwriting and pieces of paper getting lost. So I wanted to briefly touch on the digital voucher companies that we've had to work with on past productions in the past few years. There's several different ones. All of them had to be approved both by the studio that they're working with, as well as SAG-AFTRA, for making sure they are secure and up to the standards of whatever the union requires. So one is called eOnset, and that one is owned and operated by the payroll service EMS, also sometimes called Empire, also sometimes called Venture. They seem to have a few different names. Then there is Epic, which is the digital voucher system that is owned by Elevate, another payroll company. Then there's EverySet. EverySet is a digital voucher company that seems to work a lot with a payroll company called Green Slate. They're not necessarily the same company, though. They are two separate companies. Then there's Rabs. Rabs is the one Grant Wolf Casting has dealt with the most because they seem to have been around the longest. We actually started working with them on a project before the pandemic. So those are the ones we know of. There may be others, we just haven't had any direct experience with them. But all of these have been approved by the studios they work with, as well as SAG-AFTRA, and are considered secure platforms. They're all very different. They have different interfaces, different ways of logging in. Some use phone numbers, some use email addresses. But we did want to emphasize that even if you're using a digital voucher, and you could request a paper voucher instead of using the digital voucher system, but even if you're using a digital voucher, you have the option to download your voucher, and you should always keep a copy of that voucher. It should be downloadable in like a PDF format, and you always want to keep a copy of your voucher. That is your record of work for the day. You would need that for several reasons. Like when it comes to tax season and you're looking for your W-2s and you can't find ones from this particular payroll company, you can reference these vouchers when you contact that payroll company saying, I haven't received my W-2s. These are the dates I've worked. But most importantly, I think it's to keep a record to make sure you're receiving payment in a timely manner. Keep that voucher so you know what checks you should be expecting. Make sure it matches what you think you should have been paid for the day. These are all important records to keep for payment purposes, for tax purposes. Also, you should be downloading that voucher that day after wrap. Don't wait. Always keep a copy of your voucher, whether it's the paper copy or a digital copy. We're going to put a poll in our community tab and on Instagram because we'd love to know actors' thoughts and their experiences with the different digital voucher platforms. If you've used digital vouchers, which platform do you prefer? Or do you still prefer paper vouchers? So please let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.